Welcome! In this video, I give my counter-arguments to Somecallmejohnny's points against this game present in his review. If you haven't watched the previous parts of this episode, then I strongly advise you to do so. He says, and I quote, "As soon as we head into Tropical Coast, the first issue with the level design slowly reveals its ugly self. The levels start getting too fucking long. And as soon as we head into Frozen Factory, the levels start getting really fucking long. Levels become tiring. You'll be getting hand cramps. You'll become easily agitated." End quote. A blind run of this stage should take about 5 minutes. A speed run of this stage could take 2 minutes or less. To put this into perspective, a good chunk of Sonic stages in Adventure 2 take between 1 and 2 minutes with quite a lot of skill. Unleashed's daytime stages take about 2 minutes each with a rather large amount of skill, so I don't see this stage as being too long. I quote, "And that is where the second issue with the level design will begin to take its course, the shit the game requires you to do in order to complete certain levels. Not just certain tasks, but also the repetition of it all. It forces you to stop all of the damn time to flick switches, clear a certain amount of enemies, or deal with awkward controls or certain power-ups, just when you want the level to end." Unquote. I can't remember any switches in this stage, nor do I view the asteroid power-up as having awkward controls, so all that remains is the killing of a certain number of enemies. The first section includes an arena-like section where you need to defeat about 3 blowfish enemies and then use the asteroid to turn not too many enemies into debris, so as to proceed to the next section. The section with the big enemies does not feel so much like a brawler or hack and slash as it does a platformer. This is because you can master and polish the order in which you kill the enemies, as well as how you go about defeating each of the enemies. Among other things to discover and master are the means by which you approach the blowfish, charge up the homing attack while best avoiding the rockets the blowfish fires, and the challenge of enduring the keeping up of the rhythm and skill needed to destroy all relevant enemies and proceeding further into the level. Throughout the rest of the stage, you are to use the asteroid wisp, which requires some debris in order to float. This is needed to proceed through the level. During Kubanomani 456's second playthrough of this stage, he develops the wisp excessively. I say excessively because you do not need to develop the wisp completely. In fact, you're good to go with a single object having been turned into debris. The only exception is during the first part, where a fully developed asteroid wisp is required. However, that section contains a lot of enemies, so building it up doesn't require a lot of time and isn't very monotonous. The level itself is completely comprised of wisp usage. However, the asteroid wisp's controls don't feel awkward. The bottom layout is pretty much the same as Sonic's normal controls. The asteroid wisp's controls share the jump button, run button, analog stick, and the bounce button is used to descend faster when using the asteroid. Two differences in controlling are that the asteroid floats and descends slower when in the air, and that there is no equivalent to the spin dash. What I've put forth so far would suggest this stage is fun, or is there a reason to disagree? He says, and I quote, "Focus lies on marathon levels, an insane amount of monotony, too many instances of trial and error." Unquote. If you mean that the level takes a long time to complete in combination with monotony when you say marathon levels, then I've already addressed that point. I don't see monotony in this stage, let alone an insane amount of it. Perhaps, if you try to fully build up the asteroid from scratch with just one responding enemy, then it can become monotonous. However, I've already covered how you aren't needed to be put through this. There is a significant number of times where trial and error is applied in this stage, but most of them do not require much of it. One such example could be the big balloon-like enemy in that round planetoid towards the end. Of course, your attention would be drawn to the only big enemy among many clones of smaller ones that keep respawning. Above it, there is a container of an asteroid wisp, so you would experiment with these two. When you're using the asteroid to jump across the gap where the big enemy is, the camera clearly shows the cloud above the big enemy. Since you were quite recently bouncing off clouds with the asteroid, you'd assume you should do the same here. There are a few other instances of trial and error in this stage, though they are about as easy to solve as this one. I quote, "This isn't even including the numerous do-or-die situations the second half of the game is played with. Tons of areas where using parkour of bottomless pits is mandatory, a shitload of areas where using wisp powers are mandatory in order to complete levels or die trying." Unquote. He is right regarding the large number of areas where wisps are required in order to progress, since this stage is pretty much completely based off of the asteroid wisp's moveset. However, you don't really die trying in this stage unless you don't follow instructions. This stage doesn't contain any parkour sections, thus leaving me unable to address this point concerning parkour in this video. Here ends this video. The next video of mine I think you should watch is the one where I give my response to Kobanomani456's pieces of criticism against this game. If you found this video informative and watchworthy, I'd really appreciate you liking and sharing this video.